Good evening, everybody. Good evening to those out there in internet spaceland and those in the studio. Good evening and happy new year. It's the first Tuesday talk of the year 2021. So we're glad to have you here and introduce our panelists, myself, Mike Walker. We have Leslie Roof, we have VL Foils, we have Shannon Covington, we have Dr. Elena Walker, and we have potentate Nick Conley. So how you doing today? So how y'all doing today?
Yeah, great.
Good. Glad to be here. Glad to be here. So we hope that y'all had a great New Year's and New Year's Eve, and hopefully and prayerfully we can persevere through this year and make the best of it, and just be with each other and see after each other. Okay. So with that said, let's go to today's topic. And it is, has the Christian community idolized dating, relationships, marriage, and sex? Okay. Now, as you know, I mean, it is safe to say that most of us here on the panel grew up in the church. Okay, kind of safe to say that, right? We had some strong association with the churches or what have you. And it's strong, and it's a good chance that most of the viewing audience had some type of strong association with the church. And most of them like to push the narrative, at least from what I've witnessed, that it's better to be married. And it's good to be married. Most of us want to get married, though. But how much, attention has been forced on, upon us about getting married? Are we idolizing the concept of dating and relationships and marriages and such? I mean, think about it. We are broadcasting this in two Christian singles groups, okay, which we are a part of, which I started. So that lets you know how much I don't want to say a priority, but how much focus we are on getting married. How much time. Okay, let's look at it this way. In the 20th century, compare the 20th century to the compare the late 20th century to this part in the 21st century. How many single ministries we have now compared to 1980 to 1999? I've heard of one, and that was 92, right? 1992, compared to how many singles ministry we have. Yes, we do need singles ministry. Yes, we need to learn how to deal with singleness, though. But how much emphasis are we putting on marriage and dating and relationships and sex? Okay. Leslie, could you start us off, please? Yeah, you with the fancy food. Go ahead.
Okay. I can definitely. I don't want to say that idolize is sometimes it may not be the best word, because it's kind of one of those things. It's kind of the pressures from the background, not pressure from the pulpit. As to me, as far as or I had not heard, a lot of preaching on how to, have those relationships and how to build those relationships. They just say it's best before you have sex, get married. Well, ain't nobody tell us how to get there. No one's instructing you or advising you or, motivating you. And from the church, now there are all these other organizations around the church or outside of the church that are all promoting dating and young men and young women meeting and okay, I'm not sure what that was. And connecting with one another, but as far as it being done in the church, I didn't really see a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, when they talk biblically, they always advised that you should be married before you start getting involved in sexual activity. I mean, youth ministry and all that. But the singles ministry, I never liked the singles ministry in my church, because when I was in my 20s in the singles ministry, everybody in the singles ministry was in their 40s. And some of them was a little, has a little attitude about that. And I can understand that because I had a little taste of it in my early 40s. So, but I was like, at that point in my 20s, I was like, I don't want to be that woman that's like that. And then when I saw myself almost getting there, I was like, oh, you need to correct this. Course correction. You can't do this. You can't do this because you're going to be that chick that you saw 20 years ago or almost 20 years ago. So I think no one teaches us how to be single and how to deal with that and how to live in that space from the church perspective. They want to put you in a space that you're not ready for, as far as the matron society and all these things. You're like, no, I don't want to do that. So I think I can't say the church idolizes it. I mean, and maybe I'm not, giving the right word to it, but lately, I don't see that. I really don't see it.
And you said something about teaching us how to be single.
Mm-hmm.
Is there such a thing? Is there such a manual? Is there a certain, I guess?
I think it's not about, well, maybe living in that single aspect of your life. I think when it comes from the biblical perspective and being in the church and being involved in ministry and working towards spiritual development, mm-hmm. you learn how to discover who you are as an individual. What is your giftedness? What is your skill set? Finding your purpose. All of that is stuff you have to do as an individual. That's working on who I am as an individual, who Leslie is, who has God called Leslie to be as an individual. And I truly believe as you work on that and you build that within yourself, it puts you in a better position to encounter the person that God has called you to be with, or even the person that you choose to be with, however you want to see. Because some people say it's your choice. Some people say it's God's assigned soulmate. However, some people think of it in different ways. But I think learning to be a believer, a disciple, someone who is walking this walk, this Christian walk, that is your singleness. That's your individual self. And I think that's biblical. That's all in the Bible. And then, when you find that person that you marry, is you walking in your individual purpose and they're walking an individual purpose, and y'all come together and walk through that purpose together. And that's another level of learning how to be married and coexist in each other's purpose and support that. And I think the Bible does tell you that as well. But the Bible, it does give you instruction or give you insight or some type of understanding on, if you have to wait a little bit longer, about being patient, about your singleness. Paul said he thought it was better to be single for his ministry and his purpose. Okay, don't get it twisted now, because you
say that one more time for the people in the back.
Okay, the people in the back. Paul felt for his specific purpose, being an apostle, a church builder, You know, basically a man of God who was traveling from one side of the earth to the other to build up God's kingdom, that he thought for himself that it was better for him to be single. That's not everyone's calling. And you know that. You know whatever God's called you to do, can you do that and still manage being a husband or a wife? And can you do that to the glory of God? So I think sometimes we have callings upon our life and we try to put them dreams inside with their calling, and sometimes those puzzle pieces don't fit. And that's when you got to go to God and pray. I say, God, does this fit? Am I making the right pieces fit? Am I putting what I want into what you want? And I'm gonna be frustrated here because these pieces aren't fitting. You're jamming them together. And that's when you got to go to God and get clarity.
And go ahead, VL. He going to town. Hold on.
Going back to your question about the idolization, I do believe people put marriage sometimes on a higher plateau than they do single, like you've arrived or something. I've seen that. I used to be married, and I remember when, it was the thing that you would hear a lot of people when they get married, they would no longer have single friends because for some reason birds of a feather needed to flock together. And when way back, I got introduced to a singles ministry. I relocated to Cincinnati and had got familiar with a singles ministry at the church I was attending. And it was great experience. I mean, I had never been a part of a singles ministry prior to that. And it was a great experience. It was very balanced, very helpful. They encourage ongoing relations with even people who end up, let's say, not graduated, but if you got married, like my ex-wife and I, we would go back and still teach those individuals who was unmarried to show that, you don't have to disconnect just because, you got married. And we didn't abandon our friendships with different people and stuff like that. And it wasn't like we arrived. And as I tell most of my friends today, I like being single. I like being married. Which one I'm in is the one that get 51%. The other one gets 49. When I was married, marriage was 51, single was 49. I knew how to operate in both of them. I appreciated both of them. I learned to be content in both of them.
Okay. Go ahead, Shannon.
First of all, I agree with everything that you just said. And I also agree with what you said earlier, Leslie. Here's my issue when it comes to, in the Christian community. And we've had these conversations before. But my whole issue is that I don't think that we idolize it. I just think that we're not honest about it. You tell people, yeah, flourish in your singleness, but we don't give them examples on how. We don't tell them how to do this. We just tell them to do it. We tell people, yeah, you should wait until you're married. What am I doing in the meantime? And then when I get married, what am I gonna like? How do I stay married? We don't tell that stuff. We paint all of the great pictures, and then we'll bring out scriptures that have nothing to do with the topic, and we'll start, spouting those, but we don't tell people how to stay there. And that's been my whole issue with the whole marriage talk, and within my church and even other churches. We have all of these elaborate singles ministries. We're not telling the truth about certain things. We don't tell the truth about how sometimes there are points in your marriage where you're just going to have to do the work. We don't tell people what, like, for example, those couples that are mentors, they're quick to say, because I know I'm talking about one in particular, they're quick to say, yeah, lean on God, trust God, you guys stay prayed up and read your word together, but you're not being honest. I need you to be honest, because there are some things that you went through. How did you get through those things? Because at the end of the day, I love David, and he has a heart for God. I love Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but I don't know those people personally. But I know John, that's married to Sarah. I know, Kawhi. I know Bob that's sitting over here. I know these people. These are tangible people that have been married for a long time. How did you stay there? What did you do to stay there? Because they went through challenges. You're gonna be hit with challenges in your marriage. I just don't like the fact that we're not honest about those things. And then just like Leslie was saying, how Paul said, "Hey, be single. I prefer to be single. I would prefer you guys to be single." If that was what God wanted for our lives, He never would have put Adam to sleep in the first place. Period. But He said, "What? He said, it's not good for you to be alone. Go to sleep, brother. I have something for you." That's what God said. My thing is that I just want us to, talk about how to stay there and what to do in the meantime. And just like Leslie said, in your singleness, this is your time to focus on yourself and doing everything that it is that God has required you to do towards your own ministry, your purpose. Whether that's going to school, whether that's working on fitness goals, health goals, whether that's starting a business. Because if you're doing what you are purposed to do, just like Leslie said earlier, that's when God puts these things together. But if you're out of place, what if God says, "Hey, your man is standing over there by that pole over there. Now I need you to be over there by Thursday." But because you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you don't even get there in time. And so guess what happens? That thing that God did have for you, He can give it away. He can't give it to somebody else. God has, we say that thing all the time. What God has for me is for me. Lies. I don't believe it. I don't. And the reason why I don't believe it is because God can have certain things for us, but if we don't do what we're supposed to be doing, then they're not going to be for us. They're going to be for somebody else. Right? If somebody has a blessing for me, but I never show up to even get the blessing, guess what? That blessing is going to somebody else. And these are the type of conversations that we need to have with people. When you're single, this is what you should be doing. Exactly what God has required you to do, and focusing on yourself and bettering yourself for when these things happen. And then when they do get married, we need to explain, hey, throughout your marriage, you may experience these things. This is how you get past those things. These are the things that helped us. So I said this word before. I'm going to say it again, transparency. It's just being real and being honest and not sugarcoating and buttercup and telling us all the sweet things and not telling us all of the real things. Because truth be told, and this is Shannon's translation. Paul probably couldn't get nobody because ain't nobody want him because he was a former Roman anyway. Ain't nobody want to deal with Paul. That's why he was like, I don't think y'all should be married, because when nobody fooling with Paul like that, he was mean. To be real, he was. We idolize all these people in the Bible. Read your word. Paul was not nice. Okay, nobody want to fool with Paul.
And listen, word on the street that our brother Paul wasn't easy on the eyes either.
Listen,
that's what
Paul telling women to shut up and stuff. Ain't nobody got time. That Michael.
I mean, that was told to me. Now I don't, I'm not one to spread gossip, but anyway, I'm glad you're feeling better, Shannon. Okay, I need to have a talk with you. But anyway, cousin Keena. Oh, I love what she said. We definitely idolize marriage, i.e., Boaz. We often neglect the other ships in our lives. When you date, are we honest about it? If we have done the internal work we need to do with ourselves? Anyone?
I agree with. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
I agree with Keena what she just said. It's kind of, I mean, I've heard waiting on my Boaz like too much. It's just like too much. Like, and people, and it's so much that it makes me wonder, have people even sat and read their Bible? If some people have, it's like, because we're talking about Ruth and Boaz, and we don't even, I'm just saying, I don't think, from people that I've seen, some of them start talking about they're waiting on a Boaz. And so anyway, but I'm gonna leave that alone. I had some thoughts about this whole conversation here. So for me, my opinions on it is that personally, for me, I've been fortunate enough to have several. There are several. I'm not gonna say the names of them. I don't promote, and I know Mike is happy about that because this is not the place to promote. But anyway, there are several large churches in DFW, and they have great singles ministries. I'm not just saying this to be saying it. There are three large churches, and then so there's four in the area because my church has one, but my church is not really big. Considering these other churches I'm talking about. I'm not gonna say the names, but anyway. So when saying that, I've had they have singles conferences, they have other events, and some of them are free events. They're not, where you have to pay. And so I've been fine around here. And so I don't know if it's sometimes certain areas are more predominantly, they have more. And then but my experience in Alabama, I'm going to throw that out there for a moment, was that it was talked about in church that, because I stayed in Alabama for like 5 years, and it was only 2 sins. I mean, I love this church. I'm not going to throw out any names, but I love this church I was attending for several years. But it started being repetitive that every time sin was brought up, there were only 2 sins that were brought up. And so it was adultery and fornication, and that was it. I mean, I'm like, wait a minute, because I read for myself. I was always told that we need to get an understanding of ourselves, and I know there's more than. I'm not trying to say those are not sins, but there are more than those 2. And so for me, I think sometimes, I'm just personally talking, so there was a drastic difference when I lived in Alabama versus in Texas, that I go to church, and I mean, sin gets talked about. All kinds of sin gets talked about, whether it's fornication, adultery, jealousy, envy, all kinds of things get talked about. And so, let me get to this point, and I think this is the last point I'll make. That so what I've noticed is, I think it's more of a personal thing when a person gets a certain age, being transparent. I just think it's more adults are lazy. I'm just going to be real and raw for a minute. Can I be transparent? And I say that because how many years do we have to tell a single that you need to work on your purpose, walk in your purpose? I am walking in my purpose. I'm active in ministry. I'm not trying to toot my horn when I say that, but I am. I'm a single, and so it don't take 10 years to figure out your purpose. Come on now. If you are, I'm just being real. This is 2021. Let's be transparent for a moment. If you are going to church, reading your Bible, taking time out to pray and listen and discern the voice of God, it's not going to take 10 years. Please, some of singles are lazy. So I'm just saying, I'm going to be real and raw today that some singles are just lazy. We don't need to keep saying we need to work on our purpose. How many years you been working on your purpose and you still haven't figured it out? I'm just saying, it don't take that long. It don't take that long, I can see if we were still in middle school, high school, junior high, something. But if we 30, 40, 50, and we don't have no clue, I'm just being real. We don't have no clue on what our purpose is. Come on now. I just think that some singles are lazy. So that's my whole thing. And then we were talking about Paul in 1 Corinthians 7, I think it's like 32 through 35. It talks about singles and the fact that it gives singles more time to devote themselves to God, and just the whole purpose of enjoying that season. It's not for, I'm not gonna say, for me, I feel it's a season. because I have been married before, legally divorced. Thank God. And so anyway, but in my season of singleness, I've had more time to devote to God, learn the word, read the word for myself. I know my purpose and I'm walking in my purpose. I'm not constantly waiting year after year talking about purpose and I still don't know my purpose because I'm a single and I'm waiting on somebody to drop a nugget on me to let me know my purpose. We can figure out, I think, as adults, a 40 something, we should know our purpose. If we don't know about 30 something, most definitely, if we seeking the word, reading, going to church, just give my opinions. I think some of it stems from being lazy. People are not, going to church like they should. They're not reading the word. They're not doing things. They're not praying. They're not, trying to figure out what their purpose are. And then they just wait. That's the thing too. And that's my last point. I thought I was almost finished. My bad. This is my last point. They wait. They're waiting on a mate. We should not be waiting for a man or woman to figure out our purpose and to now we've arrived, like BL was saying, we arrived because we're married. No. If we're, intentionally doing things, because like Shannon mentioned, sometimes that mate will find you while you're busy being about God's business. That that partner, that man or that woman may find you in the mix of, actively doing what God has for you to do. Because I believe we all should be active in some form of ministry. There's no reason that, you can't be active in at least one ministry. So those are my thoughts. I just think it stems, and part of that is because I'm around some people. Well, they used to be around me. They're not around me anymore because I can't have lazy people in my circle. Because I used to have a friend, keyword. She would always complain about stuff, and I didn't see her putting into action. She wanted to do this, she wanted to do that, and there wasn't any action. We got to take some action and we got to be intentional about doing things while we're single, while we waiting until we get married. We wasting time. That's it. Mic off.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Okay. Brother Nick, do you have anything for us?
You have to excuse me. Okay. I kind of forgot the question. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you because we started talking about some of the other things. We're speaking about the, I guess the, how do I say it? The idolatry of marriage.
Yes, and relationships and what else? Dating and sex.
Yeah, I think we tend to sometimes do, like a lot of folks have said, put those romantic relationships and sex and marriage on a pedestal, and not worship it, but think, as VL and some others have said, that we've arrived once we get there. And then a lot of people have to just realize that all those things take work. All those things are God-given. They take sacrifice, and you should be learning yourself as you're trying to learn your mate, trying to learn where you're supposed to be. I just think it can be very tough for everybody. I think we do tend to put it on a pedestal, do tend to think of it as this big thing, like we've made it once we get there, like you said. But it's a milestone, but it's not the most important thing in your life. Your relationship with Christ, honestly, is just going to be the most important thing in your life. But a lot of people forget that in their zeal to be married. They think once they get married, it'll fix all their problems. And most of us know that's not true. About I think it was purpose. I mean, I don't know. I think purpose can change as you grow and you get older. It's changed for some folks in the Bible. It changed for Moses. It changed for a few folks like that. And your purpose comes when it comes. It comes when God tells you. Now, you should be running around purpose less. I don't think you should be doing that, because that's why, like she was saying, you should be active in ministry. You should be active in God's work. You should be active in your word so that God can guide you. Because as long as God's guiding you, you're never purposeless, because you're always learning from the ministry. You're always learning from the word. But yeah. That's my perspective.
you said something about, people when they get married, and people, they think marriage is the panacea to their issues, the cure all for everything. And it's not. It's not, And Morris Scott says, I think in the time you are single, it's the time you figure out who you are and what makes you happy. While that's going on, God will prepare you for what's meant just for you. And Tiffany Walker asked something. Tiffany Murphy, rather. Dr. Walker, do you think that because there are so many people trying to teach a, quote, dating theology, it causes people to not understand what purpose looks like?
So my response would be that, do you think that causes people to not understand what purpose look like? Just reading it over. So I would say no, because my opinion is that, because I think that people should be, in a sense, careful to, if they're following a church and listening to some of what's going on, the word, and to those within the ministers within that church. And because I don't like jump around from place to place, so I feel that if you're listening to some, like, a specific ministry and getting the word from that ministry, then that should help you as well as, just praying, reading your word. And so I don't think that there's so many people trying to teach like a dating theology that it hinders people from understanding their purpose. So my answer would be no. I don't know what anyone else thinks.
Yeah, I don't think that. I think I understand what she's trying to say, but I really don't believe they're related. A dating theology and your purpose, they're not comparable at all. Neither are they synonymous. Because dating has nothing to do with your God-given purpose. Dating is just an activity. Your purpose.
See, I think she used the wrong word. I mean, I hate because theology is a study of God, so there's no study of God in the dating. So I think she may need to say dating methodology or something like that.
Dating practices.
Yeah, dating practice. Yeah, people out there that are trying to, quote, I'm gonna prepare you to find that mate. I'm gonna prepare you. I'm gonna help you do everything you need to do.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Position, or help you in your dating life, help you learn how to manage online dating, help you learn how to manage that first date. Let me help you manage how to do this and do that. There are people out there, we see them on Facebook all the time. They got blogs and videos. I'm gonna help you understand why your relationship ain't right and why none of them have worked. Let's focus on you. And those people, I don't want to. So we don't want to say theology, because that's not.
Yeah, I don't even want to say dating and purpose in the same sentence.
Yeah, purpose is divine. Purpose is divine.
Yeah.
Okay, it's spiritual, it's divine. And so, your God, and we're talking about God. Now we have God-given purpose, and then we have another, road, avenue of people that's going to tell you what your goals are, your career goals, your objectives, all of these things that you do. Your God-given purpose is given to you, and it does. And I agree with Nick; it changes because as you walk in obedience, it's like the prayer jab. And God enlarges your territory, so your assignment grows, your responsibility grows, your level of understanding and as your relationship grows with God, He gives more, He blesses more, He gives you more assignments. He takes you to the next, like I said, take you to the next level, whatever you want to call it. It may be in line with one thing, or it may go in different avenues, because you have grown horizontally and vertically. It just depends on you and the skills and the talents God has given you to do these things. So, but yeah, there's people out there who will preach there's these dating practices and make money off them. They wrote book. Steve Harvey, you know, what's the name of that book, y'all? The 90-day rule book and all that. That was a dating methodology that he preached and he gave to people, and it worked for some and didn't work for others.
And I was gonna say that's where you have to be very, very careful as Christians, and especially as singles, that you don't fall into people's dating methodologies, because that's what they're trying to sell you is their theory on dating, which is their personal opinion on dating, whether they got it from a collective or from just themselves. It's a theory. It's not practicum. It's not ironclad. It's none of that. It's a theory. And people take these theories and you run with it and you take them into your relationship, and your man or woman is looking at you like, that ain't me. But the book told you that's them, so now you think it's them. So you need to make sure that you're talking to, I'm not trying to be funny, you need to make sure you're talking to God, that you're talking to your mate, and that you are understanding them both and where they're coming from to you. Not the book, not what Steve Harvey say, not what Creflo Dollar say, not what this preacher or that preacher says, not what this life coach says. What God is saying and what your mate is actually saying and doing. You need to pay attention to those things.
Thus says the Lord.
Amen.
Yeah. And I was thinking about something that you said, Leslie, about you brought up assignments. I wanna say, I think that your purpose is your purpose. I think your assignments change.
Oh, yeah, we gotta get our words right.
Yeah, I think our assignments change because we go through different seasons. And so God has you on one assignment here, but then he will put you on a completely different assignment once that assignment is completed. But you're still operating within your purpose.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
I like that better. I like that.
Yeah, it's nicer.
I'll agree with that, because I've had times where I know my purpose, and let's just say public speaking and and teaching as part of my purpose. But there's been times where, based on some experiences, I've had an assignment to, after I was divorced, to talk to some others that's been divorced and feel kind of shunned from church. That's not my total purpose, but it's an assignment within my purpose. I feel comfortable to walk in my purpose, to talk about divorce, where some people, especially some Christians, shun others behind divorce. And so, yeah, I agree with that. It can be an assignment within your purpose.
Yeah, because part of our purpose as Christians, period, God, talks about it all the time throughout the Bible, is to help the least of these, right? The people that have been looked over, that have been shunned, that have been neglected, that have been, just mistreated. That's why we go through a lot of the things that we go through. God allows those things so that we can minister to those people. We can minister to somebody through something that we ain't never been through. One of the lines that we say all the time is that I know how you feel. No, you don't. Not if you've never been through it. Elena's been divorced, so she can speak to someone who's been divorced. You know what I'm saying? And that was something that she went through. But because she went through it, God put her on assignment to show somebody else, hey, yes, you can get through it. And this is what you do, and this is how you do it. And that's why I say, as we go through life, our assignments change, but we're still within our purpose, because we're doing whatever it is God has required of us. That is purpose. Whatever God wants you to do, God is requiring you to do in that moment, is your purpose. And all of it ties back to him so that he can get the glory anyway. He just uses different assignments within that purpose. And that's why we have to go through some things sometimes, keyword through. We don't stay there. We got to go through some things so that we can show somebody else, hey, yes, I know you're in it, but just like Jesus told the disciples, I'll meet you on the other side. That right there is enough for me to know that I'm not going to stay here. I'm going to make it through. He told me he'll meet me on the other side, and he's not a liar. So if he said he would meet me on the other side, then clearly I'm going to make it to the other side. And that's what we're here, to do, part of our purpose. And that's why God gives us certain assignments to show people you can make it through these things. You can make it through the death of a parent. You can make it through a divorce. You can make it through someone attacking your character. You can make it through the loss of a job. You can make it through these things, but we can show people these things. And God gave us these assignments. We had to go through them in order to show somebody else. You can make it. How do I know? Because I made it.
Amen.
I made it.
Let me say this right here, and then we'll get to you, VL. Tiffany responded, but I put purpose and dating together because a lot of the dating coaches and platforms tie the two together.
That's exactly what Nick was talking about, and Leslie and Elena, for that matter. A lot of them do tie them together.
Yeah,
you got to be careful who you listening to. You can't be listening to all these people.
That's a plus, because if your purpose is your purpose may not have anything to do with the person that you marry, because whatever God has called you to do will coexist with whoever you choose to marry, or God assigns you to marry. You got people who think different things on how that soulmate and that husband or wife comes about, but that it's not always tied together. Some people think, well, I married a pastor, so I'm called to be a first lady. That he's a pastor. You may be the first lady, but that may not be what your purpose is. You can work in ministry aside him, but you may have a particular purpose specifically to you that God has put upon you that you're negating because you're not even paying attention to, because you're so focused on his elevating his purpose and his calling on his life, or the other way around. So you have to, like everyone has already said, you have to be in relationship with God. That's first and foremost. If you're a believer, be in relationship with God, because none of this will able be able to understand. Because before you go out and seek secular advice, your relationship with God needs to be intact. Because someone who is going to come in and advise you on your life, and you haven't had your understanding of who you are in Christ and your relationship with God, they will veer you off in so many different directions that you wouldn't know what side is up. Okay, and you were like, I thought I heard God, but now I'm hearing the voice of this quote dating evangelist. Yeah. And I keep hearing their voice and they're telling me what to do, but I thought God, was like, who's speaking the loudest or whatever. So yeah, you have to be so careful, because people will use words. Like, we all sit here and change these words around from purpose to assignment, because we're trying to work through this understanding of how they're supposed to work. And sometimes we'll look at purpose and think that our talent or our skill set are our purpose. God, it gives you skills. He gives you talent. He gives you things. Mike can draw. Okay, but that may not be his purpose. That's his skill. That's his talent. But he may have a purpose that can complement that, but it may not be his purpose. Does that make sense? So we have to know the language. We have to understand the language and be able to communicate that. But if you don't understand all that, sometimes you got to sit down with yourself and get that figured out between you and God, before people come in and start bringing you all these trendy terms and hashtags and videos and books to lead you in all these different directions. Because we all can get twisted. I remember, because TD Jakes had a book, Juanita Bynum had a book, everybody had a book about how to find your husband, and had a preaching series. You were buying some CDs and tapes back in the day. Everybody had something for you to buy to find your husband. I'm still sitting here.
And still single without a purpose.
Exactly. And I should have been focusing on my purpose and figuring out what that is sewing into that. So this is God's word, and it takes lots of prayer and committed time in building that relationship with God. We worry about building a relationship with these men and these women. We need to be building that relationship with God.
Yeah, vertical before you can do horizontal anyway.
And you have to be careful because on a daily basis, how many posts I have to reject with these that that involve these relationship gurus, with these new hashtags and new things. And no, I said, no, come on, y'all. We got to do better than that. I speak that you will have your spouse in 2021, and they believe that mess. And then December 31st, 2021, they're like, well, Lord, where's my spouse? Hey, no, 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 no. You listen to that nonsense, though. Anyway, Brother VL, go ahead.
I think that with a lot of different things, it's something like the underlying thing that we've talked about. There are two things I think important in life is seeking knowledge and getting wisdom, knowing what to do with it. In our relationship with God is if we want to know what we need to do for ourselves, the Bible said prayer is two-way communication. We need to ask God, talk with him about, where we're at. What is it that he's our design? He's the author of our faith. So whatever the topics of our life are, we need to go to him, find it in his word, listen to messages. There's nothing wrong with even Steve Harvey or different people. You can get information, perspectives and stuff like that, different preachers and stuff. But it's knowing what is the rhema word? What is the word you saying to me, God? What is you saying how I need to apply this to my life? Whether sex and stuff like that, it's knowing, God, sex is good, but I'm single. How can I date and flee fornication? How can I enjoy this person? How can I enjoy my singleness? Because that's sometimes that makes the world a difference is knowledge. People are miserable sometimes because they don't understand the purpose of the season. They don't know how to apply the word to their lives. And so wisdom, I feel like it's important. And, just with dating, marriage, it's dating. So that was my 2 cents.
And Reginald says, I will say this, in your dating or looking to date, do be one of those holy rollers. Excuse me. Don't be one of those holy rollers. Just be yourself. Folks are looking to meet the real you. Your light will shine without you saying a word. Too many folks are so heavenly minded that they are no earthly good.
Come on, say that.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Preach.
And Tiffany says thank you. Tiffany says thank you. Okay. And Irene, I agree with you. Folks will take these theories as the gospel
instead of reading the Bible
and mess up that way. Absolutely right.
Yes, and let me see. And Valletta says, I was told more than once to never take marriage advice from someone who has been married more than twice. There is no written rule to it. Timing and purpose means a lot. Okay.
I think you have discernment anyway from whoever you take advice from. Because it could be somebody who's been married only one time, but the wife beats on her husband or the husband beats on his wife. You know what I mean? You just have to have discernment with people, period. It doesn't even matter whether they've been married once, twice, or thrice.
And I think advice, you have to kind of take it that what maybe work for the Joneses doesn't have to work for the Walkers or the Hills. I'm just throwing out, so sometimes people ask for advice or suggestions, and what worked in someone else's marriage, that doesn't mean it's supposed to be in your marriage or in your singleness. If you're dating a man, just because that works for them, that doesn't mean it works for you and the person you're dating. For instance, I'll just give myself as an example. If I'm dating a man, he can't automatically think that he asks his friends about what should he, how should he approach something with me. He needs to talk to me. he don't, I mean, of course he can ask for suggestions and I can ask for suggestions, but maybe some of it could be I don't know his love language or he don't know my love language, or it's all kinds of things that sometimes we're taking advice and suggestions from others and we hold that as holy grail. Let's do it this way. And it's not a one way or one size fits all. It's just so many ways to, have a relationship, whether it's dating, marriage, so it's not always let's just take this advice and run with it, because we have to have discernment, like Shannon said, and work for having discernment over things, instead of just automatically taking someone's advice and trying to blame it on them because the advice wasn't what you need.
Exactly. And we also have to remember that we are all unique individuals. God did not create anyone like us ever before from eternity past, and there'll never be anyone like you to an eternity future. And whoever you're in a relationship with, they are a individual, unique person as well. So how are you going to go to somebody that don't know your unique self and don't know who you asking about their unique self to give advice on how to deal with your partner? If we're going to be real, we're single Black Christian. We need advice. We need to go to God, because God created that individual to get some insight on how to deal with that individual. Because God may say, "Why are you asking me? You need to leave him alone." But we listen. But anyway, that's another thing. But I think we truly need to be like, when you have a relationship, God's gonna lead you and guide you in every way. And sometimes I've always learned. My mama told me, don't bring all these people in your relationship. All the other folks see themselves where they are, see themselves away from y'all. You don't bring all that inside commentary, because that creates confusion, because no one knows you. Somebody say, "Well, I know how to treat a man." You don't know how to treat my man. Okay, you can't tell me how to treat my man. You know how to treat a men you dealt with that you don't
come on.
But you don't know how to treat my man.
You told the truth on that one.
That is true. That's fact.
Tell me how he needs to be treated. God can tell me how he needs to be treated, but no one else can tell me how he needs to be treated.
Yeah.
Hello.
My grandmother used to call it. My grandmother used to call it "eat the meat, spit out the bones."
Yes.
Take the things that apply, get rid of everything else that don't. Let those things fly. Okay. She said, "Baby, eat the meat, spit out the bones," and that's how I take. When I deal with someone giving me advice or anything like that, because sometimes you get really sound wisdom from people that God send your way to give you those things.
That's true.
You just have to have, just like we were saying, you just have to have discernment, knowing that, okay, God is definitely using this individual to speak to my situation, but we sometimes we just go wrong, just like you were just saying, because we want to eat the whole chicken from this person and the whole chicken from this person. And that's not what we're supposed to do. No. Get a little bit of the meat, spit out the rest of it. You don't need all of that. That wasn't for you. That was for somebody else. And so I just think we have to be careful. And I also think it's ironic how out of all of these topics, we talked about dating, we talked about marriage, we talked about singleness, we avoided that last word, sex. I know we've covered it and other topics, but again, we're so scary. Always so scared to talk about sex. I don't understand why. We're at all costs.
Oh, Mike's scared. Okay, that's who's scared. We ain't scared. What y'all want to talk about? We got what? 50
Not scared. What you want to talk about?
Let's talk about 5 more minutes. How much longer we got, Mr. Mike?
Let's talk about sex.
Do you think it's idolized, or do you think that it's avoided?
It's avoided.
Concerning Christian, yep.
It's very much avoided.
Everyone's telling you not to do it, but they doing it.
And
from
doing
it from the pulpit to the front door, to the foyer, to the church.
I'll go even one step further, Leslie. Even when you're supposed to do it, nobody told you how to do it.
That's true. No one told you how to do it. How to respond.
I don't know if I want somebody to tell me.
But
I mean, I'm just saying experiences.
I'm not talking about the actual act.
I'm talking about you don't have to tell me. I'm an adventurer and experiencer, so let me stop.
Listen, some people need that understanding as well, because some of y'all may have seen that movie, that series on Netflix, Bridgerton, and the young lady was involved with her husband, and she didn't know.
She didn't know nothing.
Nothing. The mama couldn't. I mean, the mama hadn't told her anything. No one had said anything to her. So when she realized what was going on, her little lady in waiting had to tell her what was right and what was not right. So I think, we can't be that taboo. Mamas need to be sit down, have a sit down with their daughters, and say, baby, this is what happens.
Exactly.
This is what you should enjoy. This is what there's some rules, some boundaries, whatever you need to set in place with your significant, with your husband or significant other. Let them know and talk about it. We had that conversation. Talk about those things before you even get to the honeymoon.
Exactly.
Or to that relationship. Have
honeymoon before you even get to the engagement.
All that stuff.
Engaged unless you have certain understandings, because a lot of and even to speak to that, not even the act of sex. I was laughing at Elena. Not even the act of sex, but we don't talk about how it's important to have a healthy sex life.
Right. Period. Right.
When you're married. And how
it's intimacy, period. Intimacy is not
what I'm saying. We don't talk about that. How just being intimate with your spouse before you even have sex, just how that intimacy is important. We don't describe those things in the Christian community, and this is why we end up failing people, because what we don't talk about, just think about it for those of us who have children. What you don't say to your kids, what you don't explain to your kids, they're going to find out in the street. Now, which one is better? Is it better for them to hear it from us the right way, or is it better for them to learn from the street? And that's how we fail our Christians, especially those that are new in Christ, because we're so scared to talk about it. They got to learn from the world.
Listen,
Yeah.
sisters, and I promise you this, we'll touch on this next week, Lord willing. How about that? Okay.
Awesome.
I usually don't plan it ahead like this, but I got a topic too, but I'm not gonna say it now. I'm not gonna say it here. Yes, I am. Intimacy from a Christian perspective. Okay.
Awesome.
There we go.
Okay.
So y'all got whatever days to come up with something, okay?
We should have talked about that next month, Valentine.
In any season we go through in life, we got to be careful who has our ear. Folks may mean well. It could sound good, but is it God? Is it Bible?
Mm-hmm.
And Tia, I think sometimes we block our blessings because we aren't ready. We find a relationship, totally lose our focus or priority towards God. Our attention is diverted. This easy and quickest trick of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we got a bunch of them too. Oh wow, they just came in too. Wait a minute. Reggie says sex is so natural, but we have made it bad, especially in the church. Some have even labeled it doing the nasty. Why is it nasty?
I'm all for that whole comment. Yes, Reginald. Yes.
I want to go back to Reginald's other comment about talking about the Bible.
But see, that's what you were saying, Shannon. When they learn it in the street, it becomes nasty. God didn't create it nasty. Someone from the pulpit, from the church, or from your community, your circle, need to teach you about the beauty of intimacy, the beauty and the connection that two people can have in the act of sex. So yeah, that no one's teaching the beauty.
Okay.
It's all being taught from the streets like a porn flick.
Okay.
All right.
Listen, Jenna says, my mama talked to me because her mother didn't. She left the door open for me to talk to her about anything.
That's awesome.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yes. And Valletta says, worse still, leaders are not teaching against premarital sex because they are involved in it. So they turn a blind eye so that they aren't named.
Mm.
And they're doing a disservice to their congregation, because regardless of you doing it or not, you need to still preach, thus says the Lord. And and you need to individually deal with your nature with God, but you don't diminish the word of God because you ain't obedient.
Yes, ma'am. And Kimberly says so true. And how often? One person may want sex weekly, the other may desire it monthly.
Monthly?
That's, I know.
What?
That's what
No.
What y'all talking about? And you talking about weekly, one time a week, or I'm just saying, I was talking about somebody.
I think that's what weekly means.
Weekly, I know, one time.
No.
Okay, my bad.
Elena, what it means, Elena, is weekly means Sunday services and monthly means communion.
No.
I'm trying to wrap my head around the weekly one time. Okay, my bad. Michael.
And you know what, Mike? To be honest with you, I know. As Christians, you know, we preach and we teach, you know, abstaining from sex until marriage. But our reality is that people are not abstaining from sex before marriage. So one of the other things that I feel like we're failing, especially our young people in the community that are doing it because they're not abstaining, we're still not talking about how can you be safe, because it's the church. We're not teaching them to protect yourself, because the only thing we're teaching is you're not supposed to be doing it. Okay, but they're doing it. These babies ain't coming from immaculate conception, not spontaneous combustion. Where they coming from? But we're not teaching them how to protect themselves, and that's another thing that we just that I feel like that we're failing, especially our young people. We're just failing them in certain areas, and that's one of them, because we're Christian. We can't speak on our reality.
So, do you think we should have more young, like teen ministries within church to help with? I'm just trying to see how do we help.
Absolutely, I absolutely
work on that.
Because at the end of the day, what we're not teaching, they are learning from the street. And we're not teaching them.
I could definitely say that was probably one of the best things. And I'm gonna tell. Well, when I was at 6th Avenue, the church I remember right now, and I was in high school, we had actual Reverend Warnock, who's running for Senate, was interning at our church, and he taught this whole peer counseling curriculum, and part of that was helping teens talk to other teens about sex. Because right now they're not talking to the parents, they're not talking to adults, they're talking to each other. And if you have nobody as a group of friends who knows the truth about sex, they can sit here and diminish all these little rumors and untrue, all these bad facts and stuff. And so it helped empower us to be able to feel comfortable to talk to our friends about sex, about protecting yourself and being safe and all those kind of things. So I think it needs to be taught from the helping parents talk to their children, and helping these teens talk to one another, and the administration. All that needs to be the whole taboo and the comfort level needs to be had, because you don't need the first talk to be when your child comes and you say, "Mama, I missed my period." So you pregnant, and you ain't even had the first conversation about sex to your child, and you can't sit here as a parent and be like, "What? How that happen?" They got it from somewhere.
I was trying to read what Reginald was saying.
Okay. Or like the chick in Bridgerton woke up and her sheets were clean. Was okay, but anyway.
Yes, Mike, I know what you're talking about.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, we old, but that's all right though. And what Steve got to say, you know, we can't. I'd wake in the middle of the night and wake her up too. So,
all right, Pastor.
That's right.
And Candida says, I think church does not know how to talk about it without condoning the act. So most churches only teach not to do it.
That's co-education.
How has that worked for us as members of the church? As the church, how has that worked for? Has it stopped anybody from having sex? Has it stopped teen pregnancies? Has it stopped sexually transmitted diseases? It hasn't. Hasn't stopped any of those things because we're too afraid to talk about it. And we're not condoning it. We can still preach abstinence, but at the same time, hey, if you make this choice for yourself, even though this is not what God wants for your life, these are the things that you need to know.
And these are consequences.
Exactly. And this is the repercussions of it, or these are every cause has an effect. So this is what you're gonna have to deal with once you make this decision, you know. But to just act like it doesn't exist altogether, I feel like is doing more damage than it is good. Us just turning a blind eye. Oh well, if they're gonna do it, they're gonna do it. But I'm gonna continue to preach abstinence. But we still need to prepare our young people, because at the end of the day, if they choose to do it, they need to know exactly what they need to know, instead of us just leaving it hanging in the balance. Because what we don't teach them, again, they're learning from somewhere, and it's not always the right thing. So it doesn't make any sense for us to be reactive when we can be proactive.
And listen, and if we don't teach, then our young girls will end up pregnant, and in some churches going to practice making the young lady go in front of the congregation, apologize,
To whom?
So the folks that need to apologize to her.
Exactly.
They let her know what you're right.
They failed her.
They failed her.
She's apologizing for them failing her.
Yeah.
No. The people perish because of lack of knowledge. We're not giving it to them. They're going to get it from somewhere.
They're going to get it. Well, and we got one more. Yes, it is crazy. Okay. And, oh man, now they coming in now. I'm trying to get out of here. Yeah.
We start talking about SEA.
I know. That's
right in the door. Y'all talking about sex in there?
It's so important, though. It's so important.
It's so important.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You keep a knocking, but you can't come in. So we are we are out of time. We are out. Y'all stay with me now. We are out of time, though. Thank you all so much. We got our announcements to make. Okay. And let me get to it first. As you know, this Saturday we will have our very first Making of the Connection of 2021. So we're looking forward to it. And hopefully we don't get censored this time, though. So please tune in. Please tune in. And of course, next Tuesday, we will have Tuesday Talk, and we will continue this conversation. So I'll take my nerve pills by then.
Oh, goodness. What? Are you serious?
Yeah. And of course, we're having the after party, the Zoom after party. I will post the link up, and we will have. Oh, and here's our menu for the night.
Oh, organize the menu. You won in 2021.
Here's our menu, y'all. But I'll read it: baked fish Creole, butter roast, pinto beans, fried zucchini, mac and cheese, chocolate meringue, and your choice of a beverage.
Who catered
the meringue?
No sweet potatoes.
Who's the caterer?
Nick.
Winifred.
This must be Dickies or something because chocolate meringue. What?
Yeah. Okay, so
He meant to say that chocolate pie. You know, they put the chocolate at the bottom and the little whipped cream at the top. Stuff, the whipped cream stuff.
Should have went on and did that buttermilk pie that I told you about.
I got a recipe for it too. My aunt gave me a recipe for it.
listen, we got our quick question, y'all. You ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Quick question. Is a picture worth 1,000 words? Yes or no?
No,
No.
Depending on the picture.
much more.
Depending on the picture.
A thousand?
Depending on that picture.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 words or
Maybe
15
10.
words.
Mm-hmm. 9,000. Mm-mm. I ain't got that much to say about nobody.
I don't either.
Like I said, yeah, okay. Yeah. And they need that place. So anyway, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you, Leslie, VL, Shannon, Nick, and Elena. Thank you all so much. Thank you for watching us. And join us at the after party. And Lord willing, we will do this again next week. So we see y'all.
Let's take some time and think for a minute. What's going on? And are we with it? I got the phone call away, but if no one calls, it's another day. How can I explain to you what I feel and what is true? And how can I do my best